Hello, friends. Hello, brothers. This is Justin with Masonic Improvement. I'm joined today by my co-host, the guru of Goliad, Dennis Yates.
Hi there, everybody. Glad to be here. And today we have the special privilege of talking with our most worshipful Grand Master of Texas. Right or not? Is it right? Worshipful? Most worshipful Brad Billings of the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge of Texas. That's a mouthful. That really is. Now I see why you guys always. Now I see why y'all mess it up so much whenever you do the opening and closing.
Hey, don't say you guys. I think I've got a pretty good time. I mean, time will tell, yeah. But no, I have an A certificate. I've been working diligently with the Committee on Work to make sure I got that part down. So,
well, you'll always do great.
Knock on wood.
Most worshipful, before we really get rolling, I want to take the time to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come onto the show and record an episode with us.
Very, very happy to do it. Congratulations to you guys on your appointments. That's really cool that both of you guys are helping me out next year. So really appreciate it. Thanks for all y'all are doing.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity and I'm looking forward to it.
This year.
Absolutely.
This year. It feels weird still, right?
So quickly, it just steamrolled. So anyway, it's kind of surreal, but it's really cool that it's all coming together. So
Most worshipful, tell us about your Masonic background.
So interesting story. I actually kind of just fell into Masonry. I found it, or it found me. My great grandfather was a Mason. He was still alive whenever I petitioned. And so he knew I petitioned, but he passed away shortly thereafter. And really, I just did it. It skipped my grandfather. It skipped my father. It was a family thing. I wanted to keep it going. Had no idea what it entailed, what it was. Just knew it was something that I was interested in for family's sake. And once I joined, very quickly realized what it was. Very quickly got uninvolved with other stuff that I was involved in and spent more and more time in Masonry until I'm at where I'm at now, where it's all day, every day. Wake up with calls, do calls till I go to bed, and have a lot of fun in between. But it's an exhausting thing, but it's a labor of love for sure. So if you couldn't tell from the back, those are pretty much so.
I'm sure they'll go away.
We thought that was from Grayson.
Yeah, no, Grayson's great. Man, he's awesome. For 2.5 years old, he is already talking back at a high level. So if that's any indication of what we're going to be up against in the future years, I've got my work cut out for me. But he's a great kid. But he is very particular. He wants what he wants when he wants it. He knows the difference between things. Mm-hmm. But he's awesome and inspires everything I do to be a better person, to be a better man, to be a better father, and even a better Mason. Just seeing the world through his eyes has been very refreshing. So
I love that. Well, the good news is I'm sure
cool.
those gray bags under your eyes will go away this year.
I hope so. I don't maybe 2023. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe I can retire to my library and write some stuff at that point. That'd be a nice thing to do after all the craziness this year. So
absolutely. So why did you become a Freemason? You touched on your grandfather and great grandfather and whatnot, but what really made you want to be a Mason? What drew you to it besides just the family aspect of it?
That was really it. Honestly, I joined almost blindly, but I knew my great grandfather, so I knew if he was part of it, that it would be something that was good. He was a master Mason. I believe it was Merkle Lodge. I have to go back and look at his history. But then by the time I knew about it, he had already moved to Tahoka and was a member of Tahoka Lodge 1046. Where he was still a member when he passed away. And so small town Masonry, a little bit different than the big city Masonry. They're
Little bit.
they're very community involved. Small. But that's actually where I came from. I came from small town. A lot of people don't know that about me, but I was born and raised in Seagraves, Texas. And Tahoka was about 45 miles down the road. So West Texas kid, small town kid. And what I saw him doing, really my main exposures to the fraternity were his 50-year award, which I had another event that night I didn't get to go to, but of course everybody in the family talked about it. There were a lot of pictures taken. So that was my first exposure. And I saw his watch one day. He had a watch with the seal of the Grand Lodge of Texas on it. I had it for a little while, but then it got stolen out of my car. It really sucks. But I still have his ring. And I still wear it on occasion. Like today when I was installed, I was wearing it, if y'all saw it. And it's really kind of cool. So that's how I got into it. I knew if he was involved in it, it was something worthwhile. And he's even said something at one point, thinking back, something you should look into one day when you're old enough. Because I asked him when I was younger. But really, how did I get involved in it? I joined Trinity Valley Lodge, Dallas, Texas, 1048, and was surrounded by a great group of guys. And I joined right about the same time. There were 6 or 7 other guys coming through with me. We had a big resurgence. They had just redone the website, so everybody was hitting that page. And we all kind of came through together. We learned together. It was a fantastic experience. And that really kind of set the tone for my Masonic career. It was right out the gates, fast and furious, running at 100 miles an hour, because I was having to keep up with all these other guys on memory work. It was a challenge. It was great. Memory work. Who can do this? Who can do that? We had lodge every Monday, and we had study club every Saturday. And we were almost at every single one of those with all the same guys coming through. So it was an incredible experience for me. And that really, like I said, that laid the foundation for really where I am right now. So
I think personally, that's the best way to start getting involved, though, is just to jump in with both feet like that. And, and it really helps to have a lodge that was very active with things like that going on. True.
And we had, I had early on, I had mentors. Later on, they changed, obviously, as you kind of grow and expand. But I had really great mentors early on. That's all they wanted to do was Blue Lodge and teach the work and bring new guys in. And they were very good at it. So right out the gate, I think I'd been a Master Mason a month, maybe 2 months. I had a B certificate because we learnned everything. Whenever we were going through, we would round robin questions and answers for our proficiencies. So we would, if there were 4 or 5 of us going for the fellowcraft or whatever, because it kind of hit at different times for the 7 of us. We all eventually made it through. But you had to learn everything, all the parts of it. And there were, I think, 3 or 4 of us tested for a B certificate right after we became Master Masons. So
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I always teach the questions and answers because by the time that they're done with their masters, they're so close to a C certificate, just right out the gate, like what you're describing. I think it gives them a great head start.
Yeah, and if you can start with a C certificate and move to a B certificate, I actually went for a C. But then they were doing all the degree work, and I knew all of that by that point. So we tested for C's, and at the end, they gave us B's. So,
nice.
And now I've since gone on to get my A certificate, and I'm currently in my, I don't know, I think it's good. Well, I made sure I got it last year, so I wouldn't have to test this year as Grandmaster. I can imagine the pressure. You miss something. You miss a question as Grandmaster. Oh God, could you imagine? So I made sure I got my 3-year renewal last year so that I wouldn't have to do it again until I was back. I've had an A certificate for about 9 years now. So, I love the esoteric side. I love to get into the symbols and what all they mean. But I think everything starts with that foundation of knowing the ritual and knowing it well. And so I try to lead by example in that aspect of it. And, I think it's great stuff. And I want to teach it and leave it the way that I learned it. So that all happened in the foundation. That was all my mentors and my teachers. right out the gate. And I remember when I was master of the lodge in 2012, 11 and 12, I was opening one meeting, and there was a committee on work guy, Ricky Dale Brown from Seagoville Town, as I call him. There were 2 district instructors, and they were all sitting right there on the front row, like staring at me. And that was some serious pressure as a worshipful master to open the lodge correctly with those guys there. But that was the kind of atmosphere Trinity Valley Lodge had back then. It was very, very work driven, and had to get it right. So,
speaking of symbolisms, that's a very interesting scythe you have looming over your neck back there.
Scythe of time, yes. If you could see it, this I guess it's a printing, not a painting, is actually from Darkness to Light. It's about 4.5 foot tall, and I would say 3.5 foot wide, maybe 4 foot wide. Huge printing my late father-in-law did for me back when we were printing some of these to hand out to people as they came through. And he's like, I'm going to see how big I can make it and make it still look good. So he printed this ginormous one. And so then I had to go buy like a $600 frame. It was totally worth it because it got all my Masonic record on there. And hopefully someday it ends up in like at a lodge or a museum or something. But it's really cool. And then I got the Side of Time. I've got this this sash that was given to me by the Gran Logia de Cosmos de Estado Chihuahua, which is the Grand Lodge of the state of Chihuahua. On the date after we went to El Paso after the shooting, and we did kind of a unity meeting. So that's that one. And then this one, not that you wanted to get into all this, but this is one of the old Grand Master collars. I don't know why we got away from the symbolism. You talk about symbolism. I love this. Mm-hmm. So you'll see me wear this at some of our historical events this year because I think it's too cool not to wear some of our old stuff. I love the new one too, but I really appreciate the old stuff as well.
So is that an antique or a remake?
That is an antique. I was given that temporarily to make another one. So I'm holding on to that one until my other one comes in. So I've ordered one. It's not going to be exactly the same. Instead of gold thread, it'll be gold bullion. It'll be a little bit dressed up from the old school style, but it's hard to find the exact same. I couldn't find the exact same thing. So I've got something very similar, very close. And then I'll return to the lodge that it came from.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
Dennis, did you have something you were going to say?
I was going to chime in. It's interesting that you say that you didn't really come from a Masonic background. Your great grandfather was. My grandfather was, but my dad wasn't. So I really didn't know anything about Freemasonry, and I kind of joined with the same type circumstances, and I was very fortunate to join in McKinney with St. John's 51, and they've been a Vanguard Lodge for years. Actually, since I joined, really the next year they became a Vanguard, and then they've been ever since. So I was fortunate enough to get to see an active lodge and see what it means to really do Freemasonry. And so that was very important for me when I first started. And then when I moved down here to Goliad, so it was a different experience. However, we do have, 2 district instructors in our lodge, and then we've always got visitors coming in and looming over us. So as soon as I sat in the east, my tail went through the seat, and I forgot half the stuff that I had learned and bragged about for the past year. So but
the way it goes.
Exactly. But I did make a point to confer the degrees that were done in my year. That was very important to me. As master, I wanted to make sure and perform the master's role, whereas so many times, we see guys that are just filling the seats, and maybe they're not so esoterically minded. Maybe they're not so good at the catechism, but it really sets the tone, and everybody in your lodge will follow suit if you set that example. So you as Grand Master setting the example with the A certificate and knowing your stuff, and sure, you may get a if and then wrong every once in a while, and that's fine, but that's real important for the craft to see. They need to see that kind of leadership.
I do want to say one thing though, before we get off this topic or move to another topic. Foundation is so important. I think we need to remind ourselves of that from time to time. If you have a chance to make a favorable impression on a new guy, a candidate, somebody that's just kind of getting their feet wet, grab them, take them to a meeting, do something fun, take them to one of the Grand Lodge events this year. We got a lot of great stuff planned.
Absolutely.
Something, it could be the smallest thing to you, but to that person at that point in their journey, it could be the hugest thing. So foundation, we've all kind of touched on it. It was all important to us, and we're all very active and involved now. So be that foundation for someone else. And I think it's something that we can talk about. There's no real way to, from the Grand Lodge side, put that out there, but we need to be reminded of it from time to time, because it is so simple for those of us who are experienced Freemasons, but it could mean the world to that guy that's just starting out. So just something I wanted to kind of make sure we touched on before we moved on.
I think Dennis, did you think about what you were going to say?
Well, he brought it home, because what it was mentorship. Mm-hmm. So you're basically talking about being that mentor to somebody. So when the new guy comes in and after he's done all of his work and he's a new master and there's a lot of things that he's learned, but he still has those questions about the secrets of Freemasonry, and that's when it really would help for somebody to take him aside and start answering questions and having those talks with him and let him get out of it what he was looking for when he joined. Because so many times we forget about that. We're so busy teaching the work that we forget about the guy is anxious to get the meat and potatoes in it. But the right. Mentorship is probably the biggest thing that you could have said to me, because I've had mentors along the way as well, and my goal, I've said it many times, is to be just as cool to them as they are to me. And so, that just makes me a better person for the next guy that's coming up. If I can do the same thing they did or more, then that's just a bonus for the next guy.
Well, and what you're saying about just teaching the work, when I joined, I mean, that's how I was. I wanted to learn it. Just boom, boom, boom. Just tell me the words, let me memorize them. And my mentor, Jim Johnston, would make me. He would force me, and it was almost painful at first. It's like I'm like, no, like let's just keep going. Like I want to learn it. I wanted to get through it and get to the next step, but he forced me to learn stuff in between. He would stop and say, well, what do you think about this? What do you think this is talking about? And so I think those kinds of things are very important. Again, don't just focus on the work. Take them outside of the lodge, even if it's just a social thing, even if it's just to go grab a cup of coffee or a beer or whatever, whatever that candidate's into, that pays dividends down the road. And then on mentorship, and this is for anybody that's listening, that maybe hasn't had that mentorship experience in the fraternity, your lodge can set up all kinds of, okay, you're going to be assigned to this person and that person. It doesn't really work. It has to be an organic in my mind, it has to be an organic process. And that is going to have to be you inserting yourself a little bit into someone's life and saying, you don't have to come out and be corny or cheesy about it. Say, I want you to mentor me. I've done that before and it works too. You just start hanging around a guy that you want to be like, and that guy becomes your mentor. So I started with my foundation, just 2 mentors, very Blue Lodge focused. That's all they did. They did not belong to Scottish Rite, York Rite, Shrine, nothing. They did Blue Lodge and Blue Lodge only, which is fine. And I know there are a lot of Blue Lodge Masons out there. I wanted more. I wanted to explore. I just wanted to see what all was out there to offer. And so as I joined the Scottish Rite, as I joined the York Rite, as I joined the Shrine, I had different mentors, and I kind of grew with the process. Not that the other guys ever stopped being my mentors, but I had to find somebody that was where I wanted to be, so I could work my way up to that. And ultimately, I joined Texas Lodge Research and met my forever mentor, Leonard Harvey. And Leonard Harvey was past Grand Master, as he would say it, in 1989. And there's zero chance, there's absolutely no chance I would be here today as Grand Master without his influence, without his help, without him opening doors for me. And he did all that for me. Now I'm trying to do that for other guys I see coming up who I know have Masonry in their heart. I'm trying to open those doors for them, just like he did for me, because I see what kind of an impact that can have down the road. So mentorship and kind of coming full circle, it's important, but don't expect it to be given to you. If it's something you want, you've got to seek it out. And I tell people all the time, have a mentor in your lodge, have a mentor out of your lodge, because stuff's going to go sideways in your lodge. It's like a family, right? Not all families get along all the time. We're going to have our discrepancies and our issues. Have somebody outside of the lodge that you can go, hash that beef out with. Don't do it with somebody that's in the lodge, because it's just not going to work out, right? So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, man, I should get a mentor. Yes, you should. But try to find one in your lodge, somebody that is in your lodge or close to your lodge, and then someone that's completely outside, so that you can talk to them about, different things that are going on in your lodge. My recommendation.
Man, I've been scribbling notes this whole time. There's so much to unpack.
Oh no, here we go.
From this conversation so far. I love what you're saying about mentors. And I realized as you were saying this, that it was something that I have been subconsciously doing. And the thing is, you don't have to, like you said, you don't have to go up to somebody and make it like a formal agreement where you're going to be a mentor or something. It's the saying, iron sharpens iron. Just by being in proximity and spending time with these people, you're going to pick up things. And it goes both ways, right? If you're hanging out with people that have traits that you don't need, those are also unfortunately going to wear off on you.
Sure.
And as far as the memory work goes, you're spot on about that as well. See, I did the opposite. I memorized just the words. And then very shortly after I was raised, I realized that I knew the words, but I knew nothing about Freemasonry. Like I couldn't answer any in-depth questions or anything. And so there's definite value in going back and just really reevaluating what you have actually memorized, and that, take a deep dive into those questions and reflect upon what they actually mean. That's very powerful.
And I think there's never a bad time to do that. Even if you've kind of gone through and done an exhaustive thought process, as you grow, the symbols grow with you. I mean, it's something that's really neat with Masonry, is that it's not limited to who you are today, where you want to go. As you grow, they take on new meanings. Maybe you're at a different point in life. I'll tell you, now that I'm a father, I see a lot of these things differently, or I see a different side of them because of that. It was a life-changing event, and it's something that it's out of the bottle, and it will never go back to the way it was. But I grew with that, and now these symbols and these lessons have grown with me, and I'm seeing them from a different side now. And the one other thing I want to say based off what you just said, Justin, is, so there are people out there that say, "Oh, well, I don't know all the words, but I know what it all means." And then there are people that just know the words and they don't know what any of it means. You really have to do both. It's made to be a catechism to do both. It sharpens the mind as you practice it. Leonard Harvey, my mentor, 86, 87, still teaching the work. He was sharp, and he was mentally there right up to the end because he knew the work, and he practiced it regularly. But then once you learn it, then you internalize it. And then once you internalize it, you live it. Yes. And I think that's so important. You can't skip a step here. This is not an either or. This is a combined thing, and it's for your benefit. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people look at it as a chore. It's for your benefit. It sharpens your mind. It improves your life. So if you don't want to do it, that's fine. But you're really the only person you're cheating is yourself. So
We say
Well,
we take good men and make them better. However, with that in mind, I believe, and some you guys may disagree with me, that it is possible for someone to learn all the questions and answers, possibly even more. But if they didn't reflect on any of it, they could still be the same person they were when they petitioned.
yeah, an unexamined life. I mean, it's not worth living, and that's exactly what you're describing. You're just going through the motions, but you're not getting anything out of it. Got to reflect on it and have conversations with other guys. I mean, you could have a social group setting where you're talking with other guys about symbolism. It's a great thing. Not a lot of people do it, but a lot of the esoteric minded guys do. And, I'll be sitting down having a cigar or, a drink or a coffee, talking with some of the guys. Those are some of my favorite discussions. I mean, you can get into the real fabric of life if you just go down those rabbit holes willingly. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it.
I'd like to add to that. I'd like to kind of piggyback on that. One of my favorite mentors in my Blue Lodge that, he's one of my best friends, and we've mended fences together, and we've traveled a lot of road together, and that's one of my favorite things to do is get a few guys and get them into a car together to where nobody can leave, and then you start hashing it out. Then, and it really gets good, and then you really start seeing Masonry, because you know that you have different opinions and you can't walk away. You just gotta bite your tongue and listen to what the other guy is going to say, and then it takes a lot of the polarization that we see in our secular world that we shouldn't see in our Freemasonry. It takes a lot of that out of the picture when you're kind of stuck driving down the road to a lodge meeting. And with that, even if you don't know the work, go see degrees, travel with people, and go see degrees, because the more you see it, the more you're going to understand what it really means. And it may be 5 years down the road that all of a sudden one thing will click, and you're going to have that aha moment. That's one of the reasons why people talk about York Rite, Scottish Rite. Join them, see the degrees. I mean, they're fascinating degrees, and people will say, well, I don't have time to be active in that. But I don't care about the administrative part of it. I don't care about the stated meeting part of it, right? Like, just go see the degrees once a year. If you go see the Scottish Rite, York Rite degrees once a year, you will be a better Mason because of the lessons that they teach, and all the stuff is intertwined. It unpacks a lot of what we don't have time to unpack in the Blue Lodge, because they have a lot more degrees and a lot more time. So what you're saying about go see the degrees, I think that's accurate for literally every branch of Freemasonry. Go see those. You're going to learn more from watching the degrees than you are from going to the state meetings.
I did have another note that I wanted to touch on. Brad, you mentioned getting people involved. I think one of the worst things we can do is with a new Master Mason is he's been relatively involved with the lodge up until that point, because he's been meeting with brothers and participating in doing things like that. But as soon as someone's a Master Mason, if we say, see you again in 30 days, that's a great way to kill their enthusiasm. We have to have these events like you're talking about, ways to touch base with one another throughout the month. I also want to say one of the most beneficial things that the brothers did for me as I was going through the degrees is taking me to degrees during that time. When I was in EA, they would take me to EA degrees, as a fellowcraft, EA and fellowcraft degrees, and so on. However, going through a degree is a life-changing process. But I think part of the processing, you have to see it as well. It's one thing to go through it, and it's another thing to see it and say, oh, that's what happened at that point. That's where I was at that point. It really helps with the memorization as well. but taking them to these events, introducing them to other brothers, that's powerful.
I mean, it's necessary. Like you said, seeing the degrees, especially as a young entered apprentice, fellow craft, whatever, helps to solidify that in your mind, helps you to form your own opinions. And then whoever you went with, ask them questions on the way home.
Mhm.
You know, it solidifies this whole thing, brings it full circle. So excellent comment. So just bringing this whole idea back full circle about new Master Masons, mentorship, all that. We're going to have some new tools coming out this year from the Grand Lodge side to help Master Masons, new Master Masons, understand where they can go now that they're a new Master Mason. I remember like it was yesterday. It was crazy because you're basically the person that the lodge is giving the attention to, right? They're teaching you all the work. You're going through the degrees. I mean, I felt like they were really catering to me. And then all of a sudden you hit your Master Mason's degree, and then, okay, that's okay. And then you do your proficiency and you do your all program. And that's kind of like, okay, see ya. You know, we got other people coming through now. And it's fine because, I mean, that happens to you at different stages in your life where you go through being, you know, the person, and then all of a sudden you're not. That same thing happens when you're worshipful master. So we've developed this year some resources. I don't want to share them here yet because they're going to be released at a later date and time. But some resources that tell that new Master Mason, here's what you're entitled to. Here's some things you might want to consider, and here's some things you should go try. So that's going to be coming out a little bit later. Just wanted to give you all some flavor because we definitely see that the trustees, myself, the Grand Lodge officers, and my team have identified that as something that we need to be better at. We can be better at, and we hope that this is a step in that direction. So
I love that. I was actually going to say that was my experience. EA through Master, as far as learning the memory work and everything, it feels very structured. It's a very, you know exactly what to expect, exactly what's coming next. And then when you turn in that master's work, it's a wide open field, and you don't necessarily know where to go or what to do. And it can be overwhelming for a lot of people. So to have something like that coming out, that's very exciting. I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah, it's almost like there's too many things that you can go out and do, so nobody tells you about any of them, and you're kind of left to your own devices to figure it out. So that's what this program that you guys will see in this year upcoming, or I guess at a later date, that we've kind of developed it steps. You know, hey, try this, do that, go to this. It's almost like a suggestion, but at the same time, it's do these things and then figure out what you like, and then do that, make that your masonry. So,
you know what I like about that is that, you know, we have had this conversation before. In fact, when Justin interviewed me, we talked about the whenever a man is made a Master Mason, all of a sudden the only thing the lodge can think to do with him is to throw him in the line. And it's like, well, no, that's not what you need to do, because he does not need to start seeing the cat fighting of a lodge. It's hurting cats, and you know, it's something that they don't need to deal with.
If he's been on Facebook, he's already seen it.
Exactly. And they let him in too early, you know, on Facebook. So, you know, if they have something, you know, we like the all program, but maybe if they expanded on the all program, kind of like a master craftsman type program with like the Scottish Rite has, you know, that would be very cool to see. It sounds like the Grand Lodge is heading that direction.
You're hitting on another point, and I'm not giving away any of my secrets. I'm just going to give y'all some flavor. But there is,
no, I'm not trying to take any secrets. I'm just,
there is a different program, an educational program that will be coming out later this year as well. So look for that. Totally
very
separate.
cool.
And we'll encourage everybody to do both, obviously. But you know, you bring up an interesting point. And that's really what happened with me. I was kind of put on the sideline for a little bit, and then all of a sudden I was an officer, and that was my next goal, right? So then I had more structure, and I was put in as junior steward. And so we had a pretty full line. I didn't go through all the chairs. I went through most of the chairs. But that was kind of my next structured portion. But the interesting thing is worshipful masters, a lot of times the guys that come through and they serve in the East and then you never see them again. I mean, this happens. I mean, they invested all this time. Now you're a past master. I mean, it's now Masonry really begins, because you really can go anywhere, do anything, serve Grand Lodge, be on committees, all that stuff opens up at that point. A lot of those people just kind of fade off and go away. I think part of the reason is they went through, they learned the memory work, then they were put in as an officer just like that. They went through the chairs, and then they have no idea that all this other stuff exists. That's just, they've been so tunnel vision and they've accomplished what they were going to do, and now they're gone, So we're trying to work on that side of it as well, not just the Master Masons, because I see that as a continuation of that same problem. They are given this degree work, learn it, become a Master Mason, then they're put in a chair and then go through until you become past master. And they're never shown what Masonry can be in that entire time span. It's crazy. So we're working on that on both ends as well.
Very cool.
So many mysteries to uncover this year. so many projects you're working on.
Come to the conferences, you'll learn all about them. See, we want to make each conference different. No conference will be the same. And at each one of these conferences, we're going to unveil, kind of a new idea or a new plan. The main reason is we came up with a lot of stuff. I mean, people that say, oh, Grandmaster should be Grandmaster for 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. First of all, they're crazy, because I would lose my mind if I was Grandmaster for 4 years. I have no doubt about it. But really and truthfully, we elect the Grand Junior Warden, and that is your 4 years. You're Grand Junior Warden, you're Grand Senior Warden, you're Deputy Grandmaster, and you're Grandmaster. You really have 3 years to plan, and you got 1 year to execute. And if more people just look at it that way, there is time there to get stuff done. So in these 3 years previous to this one, where we were preparing, we came up with a lot of stuff. The team that I have is fantastic. They are the absolute greatest, and I'm biased, and I don't care. They're the best team that's ever been assembled. And we put together some really, really amazing stuff over those 3 years. But as we got closer to this date, we started thinking, well, we can't just release it all at once, because like you guys are saying, it's like becoming a Master Mason. Now you got all these options, right? And there's so much, you're almost paralyzed by all the stuff. So we're like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to release it in steps. We're releasing stuff at the conferences. We'll release some stuff through social media. We're going to release some stuff in videos. We're going to do some different stuff and kind of set it out over time, so that you guys, the Masons of Texas, we can all digest it in a more appropriate setting. So that's why I don't want to give away a lot of stuff right now, right out of the gate. But I do want to tease it. I do want to tease the heck out of it. So.
Well, I'm excited. This sounds really good. I really like the direction you're like you said, you've had plenty of time to plan for it. You're definitely hitting the ground running. And I'm loving the direction that you're taking everything.
Real quick, go ahead, Guru of Goliad.
I am just absolutely giddy about what's coming. I am super stoked and can't wait. And I'll let Justin jump in with what he was going to say, but as soon as he finishes that, I think that's a good segue to explain the attendance and the excitement over the historical events that we're going to have this year. I think that, now that you're Grand Master, it's time to get it out there and get people excited, because it's going to be so cool. Go ahead, Justin. I'm sorry.
A couple of things on that, and I want to touch on this, and you guys tell me when. It's y'all show. I'm just on it. But conferences are going to be epic. We're only doing 6. They're regional. And then we have stuff planned that's also just as epic, just not with a conference, because I didn't want to do 16 or 17 conferences. I don't want to hear myself say the same thing that many times. I get very bored very quickly. So there's only going to be 6. But in places like Austin, where we did not choose to do a conference, we're doing something way cooler. We're going to do a capital degree, the first fellowcraft degree conferred in the state capitol. It's going to be absolutely epic.
Oh, nice.
We're going to form in grand procession at the archives building, and we are going to march towards the capitol. it's going to be really, really cool. So there's all these different events. Laredo, not doing a conference there, but we're going to the George Washington celebration, and it's going to be awesome. First time the Grand Lodge has been to that event that anyone can remember. And we're going to join the 400,000 people that descend on Laredo for this giant parade for our most famous Freemason, probably of all time. And we've never been there. We've never had a presence. I don't understand it. So we're going to be doing a lot of those things, as well as the conferences, and of course the historical observances, which we've got some really, really cool stuff planned. If you've been to them in the past and you liked them, go back this year. This is the year to go back. And we'll get into some of that. But Justin, Dennis, I'll let y'all tell me which one we want to unpack first.
Oh, I was just thinking about all the mileage I'm going to be putting on my truck this year.
Hey,
yes.
Here's an idea. Grab a young Mason and drive him. Have him drive you. You're only putting half the miles on your car.
Yes.
There you go.
Use his mileage.
Carpool. and you'll have a better experience all the way around.
Dennis, did you have a specific event you wanted to unpack?
Well,
and you can't say goalie.
You know, I'm a little biased, but no, I'm not going to unpack that because it's going to be a very special event. But what I wanted to expand on was the fact that our Grand Master talked about Grand Procession. And we haven't seen real Grand Procession in years. And I am so excited. If you haven't been to a historical observance, you need to go to a historical observance, because almost everyone is going to have a Grand Procession, and you can be a part of a Grand Procession at all these events. That in itself is just going to be so cool. I cannot wait to do that, especially like at Goliad and the Alamo and Laredo. I mean, it's going to be just really awesome. We talk about in front of the public and getting in front of the public, you want to talk about making an impression, a lasting impression. You have 100 Masons with their apron in a nice suit and a nice tie. And I got to tell you, thank you. You did a good job on those ties this year.
Glad you like them.
You want to talk about an impression. That's an impression. So you need to be there and be a part of it, because it's going to be exciting all around, all year.
Honestly, and the Grand Procession, it had been in my mind for a while. The Grand Tyler sword, which still is not here, but I ordered it. Damascus steel, Flamberger. It was a very expensive sword, but it's going to be the Grand Tyler sword for the year. He leads the procession with the sword. So it was very important that we had a good sword for that. So hopefully it comes in soon. But yeah, the Grand Procession really solidified in my mind. I'd already thought about it. I already read about it. And I told Justin Duty, who at that time was going to be my Grand Marshal before he, got elected into this whole secretary thing. And we were traveling together. I said, we got to do one of these. We got to do something to get us out there into the public eye. And that's a cool way to do it. And then I was invited to speak at one of my favorite lodges in the state. And of course I'm biased again, but Robert Burns Lodge, and in Round Rock. And they do this procession before their.
That's a cool lodge.
What do they call it? They call it a harmony. Not a table lodge, not a festive board. They call it a harmony, and they'll have a speaker and a nice meal and some toasts. But before they do all that, they process in from just down the street, just like a block, maybe not even that far. And they have a bagpiper, and we were walking in this procession, and I've got to tell you guys, it's one of the coolest experiences in my Masonic life. Every hair on my body was just standing up because it was so surreal. Everybody on this busy town square in Round Rock was like, they had to. They didn't have a choice. The band stopped playing. The people stopped talking. Everybody had their cell phones out like this, and they're videoing us coming by.
Very cool.
We were asked to take pictures with people. It was just the most unique aspect. So I said, we're definitely now that we've done this and I've seen what it looks like, we're definitely doing this with the Grand Lodge as many times as is applicable. I mean, that doesn't work all the time, but historical observances, we're going to try to incorporate those as often as possible. And especially, the special events like at Austin and stuff like that. So be looking for those. When we talk about conferences, when we talk about these different things that we have going on, one of the things I want to make sure to communicate is it's not a one-time event. It drives me crazy, guys, for us to drive 3 or 4 hours to go to a 1 or 2 hour meeting and then turn around and go right back home. I did not want to do that this year. So you can choose to do that still if you want to. If that's what you want to do, you can. But the historical observances, the special events, and the conferences are all set up to be weekend-long events. Friday through Sunday, we're going to have a devotional, and we're going to have a meal on Sunday. Just because, as I grew up in a small town, we always went to church, and then we went to grandma's house for a meal, and then we went on about our Sunday. That's what I wanted to end on. But the events will start in the morning. They will go through the late evening, and most of them have a Friday event attached. All the conferences have a special event attached to them. So it's not just a conference. All the conferences will be different. We'll drop a different part of the plan. We will also have different speakers on the EA portion of the education. It's going to be really unique, just kind of all the way around. But these are big time events. They took an insane amount of coordinating to plan, but we've done it because we think that it's a great product. And we think if I'm going to ask you to get in your car and drive for, even if it's 10 minutes, 2 hours, 5 hours, whatever the case may be, I want it to be worth your while. You don't have to go to all the events that we have planned every weekend. Heck, I might not make all the events every weekend because there's so many, but we are going to have a great time. We're going to have a 42 tournament, statewide 42 tournament, dominoes. If you don't know, there'll be regional conferences at all the regional conferences. We're going to have a 42 tournament, and the winners from that are going to go on to play at Grand Lodge next year in the Grand Lodge tournament. So there's something I promise you, everybody at all of the conferences, we're going to have a great time. So please come to them. Come to all of them. There's only 6. And each one has a banquet that ends Saturday night. And then like I said, we'll have the devotional and the meal on Sunday, and then everybody can take off and go to their respective parts of the state.
I've always found that the most impactful events that I've gone to in Freemasonry, as well as the most impactful lodges that I've gone to, they've always had something after the main event. Mm-hmm. For example, like a lodge. I visited one lodge where you went to the meeting, and then after the meeting, everyone went out for dinner together. They went to a restaurant, and then after that, they would go to the secretary's house and visit there. And that was for the longest time, that night was like the highlight of my Masonic experience. And right. as I've grown and developed and gone to more things and many, many more lodges since then, the ones that really stuck out were always the ones that would have something after lodge, where the brothers get together and like you're describing. So I'm very excited to see incorporating that.
Even like tonight, I mean, the Grand Masters Gala the Grand Lodge Gala.
Yes.
Be later. Grand Lodge Gala is what we're getting ready to go to right now. And so, it's just one of those things that it blew my mind that we would have 3,000 or 4,000 guys come in from every corner of the state, all the way from Goliad. We'd get to Waco, we would do all the business, and then we would never have that social aspect. So the gala is set up to be hey, I'm done with all the work. The guys are installed. We got the new guys. We're thanking the old guys, the old Grand Lodge officers that went out, appointed, and Grandmaster Curry. We're thanking all of them, and then we're celebrating with all the new guys. This is the party, this is where we want to be. This is that social, that harmony, that when else are you going to have guys from literally everywhere in the state together as Masons? This is the spot to do it. So that's where the idea for this gala came from. And then, we said, hey, if we're going to do it at Grand Lodge, we need to do it at the conferences. We need to do it at these other events. And it's really just it turned into its own thing. And now, for instance, the Austin deal, we set it up as, and I keep talking about it, but it's coming up pretty quickly here in February. we set it up as we wanted to do a capital degree. Normally, it's done every other year with Grand Lodge when they're not in session. So I have a year where they're not in session. I don't get to go up there and do the proclamation. So I want to do a capital degree. So we start off with the archives building and celebrating the Masons that are outside that. Then we start with the procession. Then we got the degree. And then it just so happens University Lodge 1190 is celebrating their centennial this year. They're the guys that normally do the capital degree, and they always, a couple times a year, throw a fantastic festive board. So I was like, y'all really need to do it that night. And you got fish in a barrel, right? Like, we've got guys coming in from all over for this degree. Let's just capture it. So we pushed the capital degree back. Instead of doing it at 8:00 in the morning, we pushed it back. And you'll go to the capital degree. You'll get a few minutes to go back to your hotel, collect yourself, and then you got to go to this, this awesome banquet that we're going to have. And it'll be their centennial celebration. So stuff like that happening all the time with all of these different events. The Alamo just so happens, which I'm going to pump up as soon as you guys let me. I'm going to pump up the Alamo because Dennis, and I know you're partial to Goliad. It starts off.
No, I'm excited for. I'm excited for the Alamo as well. It's going to be a great month. It really is.
We have so many great things going on that morning, but we have the Alamo in the afternoon. We have shortly thereafter the conference back at Scottish Rite. Then we have the Domino tournament, and then we have Alamo Lodge number 44 is turning 175 this year. One of the oldest lodges in Texas, obviously, with the number. They're turning 175, and they were going to have their banquet on another night. I said, guys, this is the opportunity, right? This is the time. You already got people here for the Alamo. We already have a great thing going. Let's do the banquet that night. And luckily, they agreed with me and got it all worked out. Their worshipful master has been great, and a couple other guys in the lodge that I've been working with. But so many things have fallen into place like that, that had we not had this concept, I don't know that would have happened. But that is going to be an event that you do not want to miss. And I've challenged the Masons of Texas, and I'll challenge them again right now. I want 1,000 Masons at the Alamo. It's not that hard. It would not be that hard. Out of 65,000, 1,000 Masons at the Alamo. It's Alamo Lodge's 175th. So every Texas Mason, you have to, if you're Texan and you're a Mason, you have to have had at some point in your mind, I want to go to the Alamo someday. That's what most people say, someday. This is your wake-up call. This is your time to get off the bench, get into the game, because this is the year Alamo Lodge turns 175. Now, some of us, I hope to be here for the 200th anniversary of Alamo Lodge, but that's 25 years down the road. This is the time. If you can make both, make both. But damn sure don't miss this one. And I apologize for throwing in a cuss word there, but really want to emphasize, guys, this is going to be something really cool, and I need you to be there. By the way, Victory Lodge turning 100. We're doing that the Friday before. So if you're coming in town, you got a 100-year celebration, Alamo conference, Domino tournament, 175-year celebration, and then we're going to Nat Washer afterwards for a little bit of after banquet hanging out. We're gonna have some games and possibly some cigars. We'll see how that works out.
I love it. So
I was going to say, you'll definitely have some cigars.
Most definitely going to have some cigars. Yeah.
It reminds me, everything you're describing, I'm just thinking of Step Brothers. Have you ever seen that? There's so many activities, so much to do.
Hopefully.
Absolutely.
Well, they end up finding their way in the end, but hopefully we don't bounce along like they did in Step Brothers. Hopefully we get our act together a little bit better.
Well, I'd like to say, from somebody from Goliad, and I can probably speak for every one of us, in Goliad, that it really is. You're absolutely right. It really is tough that we have to travel no matter where we go to, whether it's Houston, San Antonio, Corpus, Dallas, whatever, wherever we're traveling, it's a big journey. And to go even just for one night, one hotel night, it's tough. It makes it hard on a relationship, I can tell you.
And I want to just kind of talk on that for a minute, because I had you in mind when we were developing a lot of this stuff, because I have seen you at events, and of course your girls always come with you. I thought about my wife, and now that I have a son, that really changed my perspective. So another aspect that we're incorporating, not necessarily on the special events weekends, because those are going to be just jam-packed with Masonry. Still going to be lots of other stuff to do, but the conferences especially, we have gone out of our way to make sure that it's family-friendly events. We have childcare provided at a lot of the conferences. Not all the conferences, we just couldn't make it work, but a lot of the conferences are going to have childcare for the conference and the banquet. We are going to have ladies events. So one reason to have the childcare is so that the ladies can go have their own events. In Houston, we're going to have NASA and Kima, and Moody Gardens is right down the road from where we're going to be in South Shore Harbor for the Southeast Texas Conference. When we go to San Antonio, there's going to be the Alamo and the Riverwalk. Of course, the ladies will hopefully enjoy the Riverwalk. There's going to be in Lubbock a winery tour, a couple of really nice wineries.
They're going to love that.
I'm told. Yep. Yep. And it's the local thing out there. It's kind of a cool new business out in Lubbock. I mean, it's been out there for probably 20 years now, but it's just now kind of getting to where it's good on, some decent wineries. It goes on and on and on, but we've gone out of our way to really make these family friendly events. Like I said, Houston, we have tours that are going to Johnson Space Center. That's a family friendly event. And even, by the way, Houston conference, the night before, we're going to Holland Lodge #1. They always meet on a Wednesday. I begged and pleaded with them, let's meet on a Friday. And then we have guys who've always wanted to go to Holland Lodge #1, but can't just pick up and drive to Houston in the middle of a week. Maybe they're from Goliad, but let's do it on a Friday, and let's do it right before the conference. So that was actually the first date I set right after Grand Lodge, because I got accosted by Kaz, who's now the worshipful master, who was the, I believe, junior or senior deacon then, saying, "Hey, you got to come to Holland Lodge to do your official visit." And so we came up with this scheme very early on. But while we're doing that official visit, which, by the way, there's going to be a ton of district deputies, a ton of the brass will be there. We're going to have a room set up with movie and popcorn and drinks for the kids, and they're going to watch a movie. So it's a fun kind of night. We're going to have some games and stuff. Very simple to do, but rather than have them go somewhere else or do something, we're just going to have them right there in the lodge, a little something for them. The kids can get in their jammies if they want and watch a movie. And then whenever we're done with the official visit, we'll all drive down to South Shore Harbor for the conference the next day. So going to be a blast, really family, fun, friendly event. So.
Well, I am very excited about this Masonic
I know.
year.
How can you not be?
I know. After hearing all the things going on, I made a conscious effort to travel much more recently, and I'm going to be expanding my circle. I have to now because of all these things going on. I mean, I can't miss it. It just sounds so exciting.
Traveling, one of the most rewarding things that we can do as Masons. I know it sometimes, especially up front, you look at it as a burden. I've got this on my calendar. I kind of don't want to go, but in almost every case where I've traveled somewhere, even when I would drive 4.5 hours to Houston to go to a 2-hour meeting and drive 4.5 hours home, I'd be exhausted and tired, but I was always glad I went. So traveling is something that we do as Masons, but I think it expands our horizon. You'll be better for it. You will enjoy this craft more the more you travel. And if you go somewhere and you don't like it, then you just don't go back. Go find something. You're going to find more stuff that you like than you can travel to on a consistent.
You'll meet men that you never would have met before
1,000%.
Otherwise. And you'll see lodges, and that doesn't sound like much, but there's a huge variety of lodges, and I've been to some very inspiring lodges, and you'll see degrees, and you'll see things maybe differently than what you've seen before. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but it's all part of the experience, and it helps you grow as a Mason.
And
that's what I was going to say as well. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead and interrupt the Grand Master.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Go ahead, most worshipful. Don't let me interrupt you. I'm sorry.
I'll tell you guys, obviously I've been on the traveling circuit for a while now, and it kind of started with me with textological research, and we would meet in different parts of the state, and it was great. And I still love TLR, and I still travel with TLR as much as possible. But that's kind of where I started traveling. But I was just going to say, kind of hit me like, wow, how this fraternity works. I was at the backyard for the concert that Waco 92 puts on every year during Grand Lodge. Shout out Waco 92. A lot of friends over there. My friends from Laredo were talking to my friends from Fort Worth. And I'm like, I was traveling all the time, so I knew all these guys. I'm like, how do they know each other? And, it's some weird consequence. They traveled to something, they met each other there, and they've kept up with each other. And that to me is the coolest part of this fraternity, is especially when your friends start meeting and you see that cement being laid down, that great trail that we have, just that brotherly love, just being spread throughout the event. Oh man, that's the absolute best part of Masonry for me, is seeing that not just me interacting with other guys, but seeing my friends become friends. And then they're trying to introduce me to this person. I'm like, yeah, I know who that is. But it's so fun. And again, the gala, and we're gonna have to get out of here before too long so we can get to this gala. But the gala is that, again, it's let's strengthen this. When we have these guys together, let's do more of that, because that's the most important stuff. The business is important. Some of it could wait. Some of it, doesn't have to be done right now. Of course, we're going to vote on it if it's a resolution, whatever. But some of that is less important, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, than the meeting together and the being there and being a part of it. And that's one of the reasons why I like the idea of having some sort of a virtual component to Grand Lodge, because, everybody wants to be able to be there and see it. But I want incentive. I want to incentivize everyone that possibly can. If you possibly can't, be there. So I want to make sure that everybody knows, be at Grand Lodge, or you're gonna miss out. You'll be worse off because of it, or at least you won't be.
I'd like to add something on that also, just real quick. People that are out of town, people that are out of state, out of country, if you're coming to any of these events, or if you're coming into our state during any of these events, or if you don't know, reach out to Masonic Improvement. We can definitely let you know for sure. As one of the fortunate members of his team this year, I do have that calendar, and so I'll be happy to tell you where we're going to be and what's going to go on. And make sure and bring your apron as well, just in case, because you never know when you might be walking down the street with a bunch of Texas Masons going to a lodge or something. So I just wanted to throw that out there real quick. I'll let you go ahead and take it from here, Justin. And
I just want to piggyback on that real quick, because just how Masonry works, right? We have people coming in from the Grand Lodge of the Cosmos in Chihuahua. We have guys coming in from, I always say it wrong, but the state of Tompalumas, both border with Texas. For this session, we have a guy here from the Grand Lodge of Tennessee, not from the Grand, he's a member of the Grand Lodge of Tennessee, guys from Indiana. So it's awesome how this thing works, and they're all here because we've met somewhere or they've met someone else. Yes. The Indiana guys are coming to the Alamo because they're so pumped about it. They're going to be part of the 1,000 people at the Alamo. We're going to have cool. 7 Grand Lodge officers planned right now from Indiana.
Wow.
Coming in. It's going to be wild. It's going to be great. So
hope you
get on this thing and get on this bandwagon and come have fun with us. So.
Well, most worshipful Dennis, this is usually the time when I would ask for parting thoughts. However, I know most worshipful, we do have some time constraints. We do need to get to the gala here pretty soon. So with that, I just want to say thank you again for taking time out of your very busy schedule. I feel as though this conversation could have easily been much longer. There's still so many things I want to talk about, but to be respectful of your time and things that are coming up, I think we should leave it at that. And I just want to say thank you again so much.
Absolutely. I've had a great time, and write down those things, questions and thoughts, and maybe we'll do it again down the road.
Absolutely.
That's what I was going to say is I'm going to hold you to that. About mid-year, we'll have a refresher.
I said maybe.
Well, I'll be right there traveling right along with you. So I'm going to be in your ear saying, we got an interview. Interview.
If you get Justin there, maybe we could do a live on location.
That would be
Let's do
cool.
Let's do it.
Right.
I'm up for that.
Yes.
Okay, guys, we all set it up. We'll try to make it work.
That sounds
That'll
fantastic.
work.
Y'all take care until next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.